To order. Welcome, everybody. February 24th. So introductions, my name's John Bly. I'm with the Engineering Contractors Association. And been on the chair of this committee for a couple of years now. Been on the committee probably for 12 years, 14 years, something like that. We'll go over here to our Professor Emeritus.
Dennis Harder representing Sonoma County Alliance.
Jerry Glazer, North Bay chapter of the Vehicle Association.
There we go, vehicles.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't change our name, though.
Tom Banning, District 3.
Stephanie Elliott, District 5.
Mark Hale, Building Industry Association.
Errol Sweaver, Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
Steve Bertelbaum, Sierra Club.
Rick Lutman, League of Women Voters.
Musa Bessie, Santa Rosa Chamber.
Jake McKenzie, Sonoma County Transportation and Land Use Coalition.
So let's go back there. Shauna, lead us off. Okay.
RCPA.
Dana Troy, SCTA.
Okay.
Adam Garcia, SCTA.
Hi, I'm Gil, I'm a student from the Center of Computer College.
Okay, great.
And I'm Ross Clendenin, SCTA, RCPA.
And I don't see, oh, wait, we have somebody on there. I can't see who it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Gina? You'd like to introduce yourself?
Gina Erickson, the state of California.
Welcome. Thank you. So,
From City of Santa Rosa. From Mark Thomas. And the rest are duplicate staff.
all right. So first up, we have, if there's any public comment on items not on the regular agenda, we'll entertain that now. Yes.
Can you give public comment on the mic here? Okay.
Hello, Mark Soilen. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Everyone. I'm kind of intimidated by all the luminaries here. I'm a student at Santa Rosa Junior College, and I just wanted to share, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we've been enjoying the Clifford Bay Path program for a few years. But we're struggling with trying to continue it in its latest evolution of whatever phase it's in. And that's something that I'm kind of looking for help and ideas for.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. What was the?
Oh, I'm here because I'm trying to get ideas for funding the Santa Rosa Junior College's Clifford Bay Pass program
Clipper Bay, okay.
in phase 2 or whatever it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome.
Planned to be continued through MTC?
My understanding is that it's not planned to be continued. I'm not totally like an official member of the student government, so I don't know if there's like any kind of connection to MTC. Wes, I understood MTC might be planning a tax proposal to help fund it, but I don't think that that's gone through yet.
Okay. Does anybody know?
I thought it was continued.
We have a little bit.
Sorry, Jerry, what was that?
Oh, here comes the answer.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of background on the Clipper Bay Pass program. The Santa Rosa Junior College was part of a pilot where a certain number of students were offered the Clipper Bay Pass, which provides free transit throughout the Bay Area for a 2-year period. And that is coming to an end at, I think, either the end of this school year or the end of June. I'm not sure which one. The Bay Pass program is continuing, but for a fee.
Okay,
And it is a much higher fee than the Santa Rosa Junior College has in their budget for transportation. We've had numerous conversations with SRJC and the transit operators to try to figure out a solution. But really we have not been able to find one. The cost is just very high for the Clipper Bay Pass program.
who would fund that if the funding were available?
Through MTC?
Would it be MTC?
So
It would be the JC paying
The
for
JC
this.
will be paying for it, yeah,
Okay.
so it would be
And
paying.
MTC would reimburse some portion of that.
MTC would reimburse the transit operators for the rides. But there's some nuances. The rate, basically all of the transit operators in the Bay Area weighed in on the rate that they would be reimbursed, and they asked for full adult fare, which is higher than I think what the average fare. So
Hmm.
this, I think there's an agreement for a couple of years that this is how the program is continuing at this rate. And we're hoping that there's some flexibility in what the transit operators are reimbursed after that period, so that there could be a product that is a lower cost.
Is this something that the board could take up? At least for conversation, for discussion, because I know at the board level, they've got some MTC, Victoria's on the board, right? So she could take it. No, she's not?
Not on our board.
It's on the commission, but she is not part of our.
Not part of our, okay.
And David Rabbit is no longer on MTC.
Well, I've got a message out to Victoria. I'm trying to meet with her, so I will certainly ask that question for you, and she could take it back to MTC. Unless I'm duplicating efforts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we, at the staff level have all discussed this with MTC and the transit operators and the JC, and are really looking for when it starts, after this period of the agreement ends, planning for some changes then
Okay,
for the program.
thank you, Rick.
I think that we, as the CAC, could certainly recommend to the full board that this is a concern, and we have a student from SRJC here talking about how important it is and how they'd like to see it continue. So it seems like something we could ask the board to think about.
Somebody like to entertain a motion to that effect?
I will.
Okay.
Wait, I have to ask a Brown Act question. Can we do something like this that isn't already on our agenda based on public comment? I'm not sure that we can.
We have to make a motion to put it on the agenda
On
for
the
next
agenda,
month.
yeah.
Thank you.
If I may, so this is comment on non-agenda items, and I think that without even making an action of this board, there's a clear appetite for this, and we can bring back an item next month to talk about this as an agendized item. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's bus rides that they can get right now with just showing their student ID. They do not have access to the smart train. That's where a lot of the costs are. We'll bring this back next month.
Fair enough. Might want to come back next month.
Thank
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll be at MTC tomorrow, so I can ask staff.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, thank you. All right, seeing no other public comment for non-agendized item, we are on to approval of the January 27th meeting minutes. That's an action item. So has anybody had a chance to read those? And if so, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
To approve by
I'll
Lawson.
second.
Jake seconds. Any discussion, corrections, misspellings? Did I get your name right, Reverend?
Mike? Mike?
All those in favor of approving the January 27th meeting, signify with an aye. Opposed, abstentions?
I abstain.
Rick and Dennis, abstentions. Okay. Minutes are approved. All right, we are now ready for election of a chair and a vice chair. So I would ask if there are any nominations from the floor. Yes, Dennis.
I'd like to nominate John Bly as the chair and Musa Abesi as the vice chair.
No. Okay. Are there any other nominations? would you serve if elected again? I will
Would
too.
you?
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
was like a marriage. Harris might have a.
Sorry.
Oh, just, I don't know that I want to necessarily nominate anyone, but I do have to say, since the main job of being chair and vice chair is to facilitate meetings, and I have to say, Musa, your voice is very quiet, and when you're running the meeting, I cannot most of the time hear you. And I find that a challenge. So it's nothing about you personally, but it's a, thing with my hearing loss.
Okay. Would you like to nominate a different person for either chair or vice chair? Or would you
Louder
just like
voice.
Musa to speak up, doggone it?
Close to the microphone.
Yeah, eat the mic.
Turn it up to 11.
If you have somebody else, just nominate that person. I'm not just
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy to do it, actually.
just for this position.
You don't need this for your resume, Musa.
I would be happy to do it.
Mr.
but
Chair.
All right, so it sounds like we have
Nominate
two.
myself, I
sir,
suppose,
Jake.
but I don't know how they. want.
I would just say the use of the microphone is mightily abused in our regular meetings around this county, and I have hearing problems as well, and I, at the moment, have my hearing aids turned up full bore, but the problem is with all of us not using the microphones properly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that comment. Am I using the microphone properly? Can you all hear me?
I can hear you now, but I too have a hearing deficit, so it's hard to hear you.
I will turn it towards my, thank you.
John.
Yes, Rick.
Yeah, we need to remember that it's not just we here that need to hear everything that's going on. There are people watching here and the meeting's recorded. So we
Correct.
really need to make sure we speak into the mics.
Good point. All right, we have one nomination for chair. We have two nominations for vice chair. Okay, I will lean to staff for the protocol as to how we vote. Do we just do a hand vote? Do you want Musa and I to leave the room? And Eris?
No, I believe as we did at the board meeting, we can essentially do a straw poll.
Okay,
And then after that is complete, you can decide, then the motion can be decided, can be seconded.
okay. All those in favor of John and Musa signify with,
No, we need to,
This is just.
Each one
just one by
separately.
one.
Yeah, we have
It's
to
not
go
a
separate.
slate, we'll vote first on the chair. We'll
Okay.
chair, then the vice chair.
got it. So we vote one by one on John Bly for chair. We'll start this way. You're signifying, your raised hand means an aye.
Deny.
All right. Chair for, I want you to do it. All right, chair for another year. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your support. And now we're going to go around the room with Musa as vice chair. Yes, how'd we do?
That was a straw poll, so you're still gonna need a motion for the final vote.
Okay,
I thought I made the motion.
No, the motion had been made.
we had a motion and a second already.
Musa as vice chair.
Very good point. All right, is there a motion for John Bly as chair?
There is now, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of John Bly as chair signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, all abstain. Motion's carried. John Bly is chair for one more year. Now we go to a motion. Pardon me, we're doing a straw poll first. So a straw poll signify for Musa. Go around the room. Mark? Nope. Denny? Yes? Yes? I don't know.
Making a motion and then having to reject it, you can just all raise your hands.
All right, straw poll. All those in favor of Musa, raise your hand. Can you vote more than once in a straw poll? Sure, why not? I say yes, you can. All right. All those in favor of Eris as vice chair, raise your hand. How'd we do? Musa? Musa's got it. That's the straw poll.
So now you need a motion.
So we need a motion and a second for Musa.
I move Musa for vice chair,
Second.
closer to the microphone.
Any further discussion on that? Call for the question. All those in favor of Musa as vice chair for one more year? Opposed? 2 abstentions. None. Congratulations, Musa.
Thank you.
The band stays together for another year.
I'll try to raise my voice and use the microphone for.
Use the microphone.
And we solemnly swear to help you.
You know, it's interesting. I went to a meeting today and she had a microphone in her hand. It was on ice. She never put it up to her mouth. It's like you couldn't hear her. So your point is well taken. Use the mic.
Indeed, it is well taken, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. My resume is now complete. Thank you for your support, guys. I appreciate it. SCTA, RCPA annual report. Is that, who's doing that? Ross, Shauna?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is an informational item. The SCTA RCPA annual report is available at the link. We also have a limited amount of physical copies here. If someone would like that, if we run out, we can definitely print more and get them to you. So that is presenting this to you. It is truly a marketing document. I mean, it is showing our accomplishments in 2024.
Can we share that via email to save paper?
Yes, the link is in the agenda packet.
Perfect. Does anybody need a hard copy that doesn't have one?
They do look pretty good.
What's that?
I have several hard copies right here.
Okay, we got one here.
Yeah.
If you've got an extra one, I'll take it. Don't have to use my ink.
Actually, no, I never look at it.
Thank you.
Old school.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Shauna. We're on to, are there any more?
Yes.
Couple more.
Is there? I'll take one.
Uh,
At least look at
I
it.
got one more too here.
Okay, I'll take one. So I'm just handing them around. Thanks.
No more.
Rick wanted one.
Oh, did you want one?
Here's one
Okay, here,
for
Rick, you can have it.
Got one more?
All right, great. So now we're on to Measure M project presentation. And is that Shauna, Brenton? That's Brenton? Nope, David. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll be doing a tag team. The first project presentation will be done by David Williams from Mark Thomas. They're SCTA's consultant for the Fulton Road study, followed by me for the Hearn Avenue study and the Shauna for 116-121.
Thank you.
So can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Terrific. And I just need to share screen, David?
Yes, you should be able to.
You should be able to.
All right, let me do that. Here we go. Everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Terrific. All right. So we just wanted to do a presentation on the Fulton Road and Merced Avenue along State Route 12 feasibility study for the Citizens Advisory Committee. This is just an overview of the agenda that we're going to go through, just presenting, you know, what we studied and where we are in terms of next steps. So we'll go through that. So why are we undertaking the study? It's really, the purpose was to identify near-term, mid-term, and long-term improvements. Near-term typically can be designed, environmentally cleared, and built within 0 to 4 years. Mid-term are more in the 4 to 10 year timeline, and long-term are typically greater than 10 years. And we looked at projects overall to improve safety in the study areas and provide active transportation options. and also looked at opportunities for a future increasing that probability of getting future funding from both state and federal sources. So the two study areas on the left is the Fulton Road area where it crosses State Route 12. We looked in this area, and also the area on the right is the Merced Avenue State Route 12 location, which is just sort of to the west of Fulton Road. The types of improvements we looked at, this is just a snapshot. We looked at sidewalk gap closures that exist, improving bicycle pedestrian facilities, different types of intersection modification, trail gap closures that are in the study areas, opportunities for mobility hubs linking all types of transportation modes, and ultimately interchanges, which are more the long-term type of improvements. So we did an extensive public outreach. We had monthly meetings with what we called a project development team that included SCTA, City of Santa Rosa, Sonoma County, and Caltrans. And then we went out and we expanded that and included representatives from the City of Sebastopol, bicycle and pedestrian advisory groups, transit agencies, the local police, sheriff, and local schools and colleges. And we provided 4 presentations to them throughout the life of the feasibility study. We also did what we call pop-up events and public meetings. We did 2 pop-up events at the Matote Food Park. It was giving them opportunities to look at what we were developing as we went through the study. We also provided links to project information on the STA website. So we did 2 pop-up events, and we did those just prior to 2 public meetings that we also did. We did the first public meeting back in April of last year, and that was an in-person one at the Wright Charter School. And we did a second one, which is a virtual meeting, which was later last year in October. We've developed a draft report that's been on the SCTA website for the last month. We held a 30-day review period that actually closes the end of today. So folks have been given the opportunity to look at the report, download it, and provide additional comments to comments received during the other public events. So just a little bit of information on the types of improvements we looked at. Once again, short-term improvements or mid-term improvements. This is at Merced Avenue. We looked at one option of putting a signal in there, adding turning lanes, improving the transit stops that are out there, trail crossing additions on the side road that could include like a raised table at the where it crosses the street just to slow traffic down. We also looked at the same location doing a roundabout, just a different type of intersection treatment, but just sort of looked at that as an option as well. When we get to Fulton Road, there's a lot more intersections to look at. So this was looking at the existing signal that's on State Route 12 and improving that signal, and also seeing if there's opportunities at the adjacent intersections at Occidental and Sebastopol to improve those intersections. We looked at adding transit stops in all directions through this area, and improving bicycle and pedestrian facilities, including separated multi-use trails that are off the actual roadway. Similar, we looked at roundabouts, primarily at State Route 12 and at Occidental, basically similar types of movements for bikes and pedestrians along Fulton Road through here, but just looking at different treatment options for these intersection areas. We talked about the mobility hubs. You just looked at a few areas. This is just an overall idea of bringing in opportunities for parking, electric vehicle, electric bike charging facilities, bringing in transit stops that could potentially support expanded transit service in this area. And we also looked at, looking at a bike pedestrian route over SR12. We looked at different ways to get pedestrians and bikes up and over SR12 without actually having to go through any types of intersections. And now the more long-term improvements, these are going to be more the traditional interchanges. This is something that just takes longer to plan and design environmentally clear. So we came up with 5 different interchange ideas. The first one is basically just having signals at the ramps. This is more a traditional type of interchange you see basically in California. This would also potentially, you could phase these where you could have done earlier improvements and then they get incorporated into these interchange ideas over a longer period. This is similar, but we're using roundabouts at the ramp intersections along Fulton Road instead of signals. This is actually called a rotary interchange. It's just one large roundabout right at the SR12 that serves all the different turning movements. This is called a diverging diamond interchange. You're starting to see these built and around the state. Basically, when you're going along Fulton Road, you move to the other side of the roadway through the interchange. It provides more direct access on and off the ramps with these types of movements. And this is another type of interchange. It's called a divergeabout, which is sort of combining the previous interchange, but also using a roundabout. Something that sort of was looked at and in terms of the feasibility study. So what are the next steps? It's really to review any public comments received on that draft report that's currently on the STA website. Today's presentation, just providing information to the Citizens Advisory Committee, taking any comments. And we also have an upcoming presentation to the SCTA board on March 10th. We take any remaining comments and finalize that report and then put it up onto the SCTA website. We plan to probably finish the study towards the end of March, early April timeframe. With that, any questions?
David, I've got one quick one, I think. On the Merced Avenue, that's pretty close to Fulton. Yeah. So when you are looking at short-term or long-term, it would seem like all you'd really want to do is get the entrance and egress off of 12 and onto the frontage road. But you're actually looking at a crossing of 12 with Merced, right?
Which exists today. It's stop controlled today. So basically the traffic on 12 has continuous flow and people turn in and out or cross based on stop. So we're looking to see if there's a way to control those movements a little bit more.
Right. My question is, are you also looking at getting that crossing closed completely so there's no entrance and egress onto 12, and then you move them down to Fulton Road to a fancier or safer way to cross the road at that point?
Part of
Well, go ahead and let them answer first. Yeah,
because I wanted to just point out that and very infrequently, unless you've got different numbers, people don't actually cross Merced. I mean, very few do that.
Right.
Most of us actually get off there so we can get on to Occidental without going through the other traffic jam.
Right.
And that's why that's become important.
We actually did get some comments like that during the public review and at some of the public meetings. I think the intent of the study is not to preclude any type of future improvement. So, looking at closing this would still be something that could be studied. It's just we were looking at ways to improve the safety in these areas, and these intersection improvements were one area we were looking at.
Okay, not sure that answers our question. Right. Are you also looking, since you're looking at safety, are you looking at closing it completely and moving them down to Fulton Road, which is a busier crossing.
Mr. Chair, if I may, that was something that we considered. We did not study it extensively. We did receive some public comments that people wanted to maintain access at Merced Avenue for the people that live in that neighborhood. But it's not something that we studied extensively to just look at closing off access entirely. It's something that could be looked at in the future, but for the purposes of the study, we added in Merced Avenue, but we didn't add in closing Merced Avenue to the study.
So, one other point that, because I drive that all the time. The other point there is Occidental gets used because we have often, actually every day, traffic jams going into Sebastopol. The traffic lines up about a mile going into the city. So many people who want to get through Sebastopol end up going off to Occidental and branch on to 116 in order to get around. So the point I would make about this intersection is that the study needs to look well beyond the intersection and find out where everybody's going to. Because in many cases, the reason we have the conflicts here has to do with trying to get the traffic to West County, basically, in and out of West County. And we have to solve the whole problem. And just the intersection by itself, we could relieve the intersection if we relieve some of the other problems at the same time.
You know, staff is aware of those traffic movements diverting around Sebastopol via Occidental. And David, if you can go to the near-term improvements on Fulton, we did look at adding additional turn lane capacity for the traffic trying to turn on to westbound Occidental, since that does queue up and then people go down to the next intersections to try to get back over to Sebastopol. So something we're aware of. The city of Sebastopol is doing their own study right now, looking at the downtown circulation movements on 116 and 12. And so we'll see if there's any changes come out of that study as well.
Thank you. You had a question, Rick?
Yeah, thank you. As you know, the Highway 12 is a freeway to the east of this intersection, and it's a two-lane road west of there into Sebastopol. May I assume that you believe there is no chance of the state in improving Highway 12 to the west at this point, making it a freeway, at least in part?
At this time, the state has no plans to convert Highway 12 to a freeway. There is no funding identified and is not planned in any long-term plans by SCTA, the state, or MTC to convert Highway 12 to a freeway.
Okay, Tom?
On all of the intersection options that were studied, do any or all of them include a bridge for the Joe Rodota Trail over Wright Road?
So currently, all of the proposed options have the trail crossing Wright Road at an at-grade crossing that would be protected either with a traffic signal or a pedestrian hybrid beacon signal. So David, I don't know if you're able to zoom on the screen there, but kind of in the center of the image, right where it says Wright Road, that's where that proposed crosswalk would be. Currently where the trail terminates, and then it would align over to the future trail alignment through the county-owned former railroad right-of-way. And so that trail crossing would be also adjacent to where a planned gas station would be. And so that potentially would be controlled by a traffic signal at that gas station driveway. And so that would improve the safety for riders trying to cross Wright Road there. But it would be a signalized or some type of other controlled crosswalk.
So at grade, no matter what cycling pedestrian infrastructure you put in for the intersection at large over 12, because that has to tie in somehow, somewhere, depending on the option for this. Okay. Also, second question, as Rick pointed out, this is an end of freeway interchange. So that means it has to induce people, westbound people, to slow down. You can't just let them fly through like a normal freeway interchange. So I presume that is part of the thinking here for roundabouts. It's a check, just like the Merced roundabout would be a check on speed.
Yes, we did a lot of public support for putting in a roundabout at this intersection. And one of the concepts the team looked at as well was, if you put in a roundabout, how do you make it so you don't preclude a long-term interchange that's ever needed 10, 20, 50 years from now? And that's one of the reasons why we came up with the rotary interchange concept, where you could build a larger roundabout than you would necessarily need and make it so that you could stage in the future to just basically build the freeway over the roundabout in the future.
Okay.
But I think the thing with the roundabout, it does provide the opportunity to slow approach speeds coming into the intersection, just by the way you change the angles of the through roads as they come into the roundabout.
Thank you, David. Just a point of order, this is not open to public comment at this point. Thank you. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, you can call for public comment on any agenda item.
Aha, go ahead and say something then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got
Thank you for that correction there.
I have both an on-topic and off-topic comment. I use 12 to get the job link sometimes in a hurry. And I find that I'm really stymied by people who are all stopped at that light. So I would like a way to just kind of like speed off without a light back to Sebastopol Road and up to Capricorn Way. So that's my on-topic comment. And my off-topic comment is, and I don't know if anyone here has any input into this, but I've always thought it'd be cool to have Smart Train use some kind of right-of-way or railroad track to get to Sebastopol.
Thank you. All right. David, anything further?
No, I'm good. I didn't know which David.
Yeah, sorry. The one with the Boston accent.
There we go.
Oh,
Yes,
most
we-
got a question.
So my question, what's next after this study, you know?
So
Yes.
go ahead, David.
Yeah. So right now, the draft report is up on the SCA website. It's been up there for about 30 days now. Public comment closes today. So we're taking any comments from today's meeting. We're going to do a presentation to the SCTA board on March 10th, and then take any final comments, incorporate those comments into the final report, and basically publish that report, that final report that will be up on the SCTA website.
In fact, my question was, what's next after this project, you know, not about, you know, the study, you know?
So David, I can chime in on that one. So the short-term, midterm, long-term projects, they all have different cost estimates that are included in the feasibility study. And it's just a matter of whether it's a priority of the city of Santa Rosa, the county, or SCTA to proceed with moving some of those projects forward. Some of them are within the Caltrans right away, so they would need Caltrans approval. Other ones are just in the city right away, so the city could decide to proceed with them. However, there's no funding identified right now to proceed further. We used all of the Measure M funds that were identified in the expenditure plan for this project, for this study. And the city at this time has indicated they don't have a particular priority for this intersection. So for now, this study will probably sit on this shelf unless it becomes a priority for the city.
But, you know, the major cost is for the intersection, the roundabout, or the interchange, or whatever proposed, you know. And my understanding, this is, you know, Caltrans jurisdiction, right?
Yes.
So do you need to do a follow-up study, you know, like, you know, for the or the roundabout at the state highway?
So we've had a number of discussions with Caltrans about this location. They've looked at it from a safety perspective, and even after the collision that occurred last August with the fatal multiple vehicle collision, there was an unfortunate fatality. It didn't meet the standards for Caltrans to do a big safety project right away. They are aware that we're interested in improving this location, but this time they don't have a priority to improve the intersection either.
Thank you.
Wow, really? The fatality doesn't elevate it to the safety problem yet. Anyways, Rick?
Is this intersection within the city of Santa Rosa?
Correct. So the intersections within the city of Santa Rosa city limits, I believe the northwest corner of Sebastopol Road and Wright Road may be in the county, but the majority of the intersections within the city limits.
So because Caltrans controls the state highway, you have to have both the city and Caltrans agree on anything you're going to do, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And anything we do in Caltrans right away, they've got a certain procedure that they go through in terms of project delivery. They take studies like this and advance them into what's, project study reports, then they do environmental clearance and then do final design. And that's true for whether it's a roundabout intersection or it's an interchange. It's a certain process that we need to follow.
Tom?
So as far as active transportation plans that are being worked on by the county and various city jurisdictions, this is kind of a node point of their AT, active transportation plans for the county, the city, with Caltrans thrown in. I'm just thinking like the Redota Trail not flying over Wright Road. Because I went to the April presentation you guys did last year, and every option showed that, and now it's not. So I would presume there's still a lot to work out between these active transportation plan, different jurisdictions.
So we made sure to work with the planning team to make sure that the extension of the Joe Rodota Trail in this project area was included in the countywide active transportation plan that was just adopted by the board. I should note, I don't believe we ever showed a concept of having the Joe Rodota Trail come over Wright Road. We did have the concept of having it go over 101, but the cost of going over Wright Road probably wouldn't be justified since it would cost $20 million or so to go over Wright Road.
Okay.
Similar amount to go over 101, unfortunately. But there are other concepts we could look at in the future, such as like an undercrossing or other types of treatments. It just really depends on the environmental impacts and the cost, but it's not something that we studied specifically in this study.
Seems like we've hit a hot button with this topic. Rick?
Yeah, thank you. Well, from what you said a few minutes ago, it sounds like there's little to no enthusiasm from the city of Santa Rosa to do anything at this interchange. If my understanding is correct, I'm wondering, why are you even thinking about it? It seems like, it seems like you have other things to do with your staff time.
This is Rob from the city of Santa Rosa. Do you want me to answer that?
Rob, I'll take a crack in and then I'll turn it over to you.
Okay,
I
thanks.
should note that this project was included in the passage of Measure M back in 2004. It was a priority for the public at that time. Priorities change over time, and this intersection does have safety issues. It may not rise to the top for improvements for Caltrans or the city, but there are definitely improvements that can be done to improve it for transit, active modes, and for vehicles. But it just isn't rising to the top of anyone's list right now. And I'll turn it over to Rob if you want to add anything.
Great, thanks. And sorry, my voice is kind of gone. We are definitely looking at this location for future active transportation modes. That's what our focus would be on at this point versus vehicle capacity. But yes, this is a location that we are interested in the future.
I think we would all agree it's probably one of the major exchanges that need improvement. One of the top three in the area, I would guess.
So I have a question. How many fatalities do we need before they do something about this Fulton and Highway 12 intersection?
So Caltrans doesn't have a specific number of fatalities before they address things. They do analysis based on the number of crashes and the severity of those crashes and whether those fatalities over a certain period, and then they determine whether it rises to the top of exceeding kind of rates of injuries and fatalities statewide and whether it would qualify for certain safety funds. They looked at that back in October after we had the fatality in August, and unfortunately it didn't meet those standards yet. But if there are more crashes and if they unfortunately happen to have more fatal crashes, it may rise to the top for Caltrans to address it.
That's just a ludicrous in my opinion. No, there should not be one fatality.
Thank you. Oh. Hi, Carol.
So in Sonoma, it took us 3 fatalities to get at one intersection to get Caltrans to talk to us at a public meeting. They said it would take 5 years to fix it. And the public out, just at that meeting, the person who was speaking from Caltrans went totally white and stepped back. And I looked around the hall, all of us in that room were ready to attack him. So they fixed it in 3 months. And there have been no fatalities since then, but 3, they were willing to wait 5 years. So we're going to wait for 5 more people to die. What I'm telling you is this: public outcry. That's what did it. It was simply citizens screaming.
I heard you. Thank you, Carol. All right. No other comment. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, David. And then Ross will be working on getting the next presentation up, and I'll take it over for Hearn Avenue.
All right, that should be working there for you, David.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you, sir. All right. So our next interchange project to talk about today is the 101 Hearn Avenue interchange, which has been under construction. Just to give you a timeline, there were actually multiple projects done on Hearn Avenue, with phase 1 being completed back in 2014, phase 2 in 2011, and now this third phase is slated to hopefully end by the end of 2025. There was a large amount of Measure M funds committed to all these projects, with most of it going towards the interchange, which we call phase 3. Just to give you an idea of the location of the project, it's in a very disadvantaged area of Santa Rosa, linking the kind of more affordable housing areas on the west side of 101 with the retail opportunities and employment centers on the east side of 101. If we go over to the next slide, I believe you can see the original configuration that had 1 lane each direction with no shoulders. There are insufficient capacity for vehicles on the overcrossing, so traffic actually would back up onto the off-ramp on 101, and that delays emergency response times. There's no sidewalk on the north side of the overcrossing, and the sidewalk on the south side doesn't go all the way between Corby Avenue and Santa Rosa Avenue. And there, as I mentioned, there's no shoulder, so there's no bike facilities on the overcrossing. It doesn't meet vertical clearance standards over 101, so it's subject to getting hit by tall loads from trucks. And the bridge railings are original and not crash worthy. So it's an old bridge, and this is why we're fixing it. So just to give you some visual looks at it, you can kind of see all the issues where there's no shoulders, there's congestion on not only Hearn Avenue, but also on 101. People doing unsafe movements, coming in and out of traffic, trying to get around it. Bicyclists trying to share a sidewalk with a pedestrian, and just not a good environment for anyone out there. So this is the layout of the project that is currently being built per plan. So this is a new 4-lane overcrossing with 2 lanes in each direction, east and west on Hearn Avenue. There's an additional right turn lane being installed on the off-ramp from southbound 101. And then for the first time in our county, we have a 2-way protected class 4 bikeway being installed as part of the overcrossing on the south side of the overcrossing. And the original plan, which I'll touch on in a second, had a westbound unprotected class 2 bike lane as part of the design as well, so that confident cyclists could still stay on the northern half of the bridge and ride westbound if they decided they didn't want to cross over to the protected bike lane on the south side. So this is the cross section of what we had before that previous design. The design we had a couple years ago had the bike lane on the west side, and then instead of a bike lane on the eastbound side had a shared multi-use path. And that didn't score very well when it came to some funding applications the city submitted. And so we worked with the designer AECOM to tweak it to have that 2-way protected class 4 on the south side and the bike lane on the west side. And so that was currently what is being constructed. However, based on feedback from the Bike Coalition and others, we've been successful in working with Caltrans to work on a change order to change the width of some of the lanes around and the center median to change the westbound bike lane to a class 4 protected bike lane. That includes a slight narrowing the bike lane from 6 feet to 5 feet and that allows us to squeeze in a 2-foot, 4-inch buffer that will have the large K71 green delineators that you might have seen around town in Santa Rosa, Windsor, and in Petaluma. So those will provide some vertical protection to bicyclists on the west side without having to actually change the whole structural design of the bridge. So it's just really a little bit of median changes and striping changes for the most part. That change order is being reviewed by Caltrans and hopefully will get approved soon. We did have to wait for some guidance from Caltrans headquarters to change because we actually have a narrower lane than what Caltrans would typically allow as part of this change order. Now we're proposing to narrow part of the inside lane to 10.5 feet. And usually Caltrans only goal is the narrow as 11 feet. So that gives us the extra width that we need to accommodate this change and it'll provide more protection for bicyclists going westbound. Just to talk about some more of the benefits of the project, it's going to improve access to goods, services, and jobs, recreation, improve access to schools and education opportunities, access to public transit and travel times. Santa Rosa City Bus is planning on, when this project is completely rerouting one of their bus routes that currently goes around on Corporate Avenue. So this will be able to go directly over Hearn to Santa Rosa Avenue. So we'll really speed up transit time as well and improve safety for everyone using the facility. Just to give you an idea on the schedule, the city has been working on this project for a long time. They started in the environmental phase with David Williams, who we heard earlier when he was at a different firm back in 2014. The environmental phase was completed in 2016. Final design kind of languished for a little while the city was working on securing funding. And in 2023, we worked with the city to secure a number of state local partnership program funds, along with other competitive funds that allowed us to go out to bid. The project was awarded Gelati Construction back in November 2023. We began construction last year and traffic has been moving pretty well and being able to move on construction so that we're going to be hopefully able to shift traffic to the northern half of the bridge this summer. Just to give you some construction photos from last week, if you didn't hear, there was some full closures of 101 overnight on Tuesday and Wednesday. That allowed us to install the new girders for the bridge. These were a special about 120, 130 foot long girders that were manufactured in Lathrop and had to get CHP escort all the way here. So we had to close down the freeway to install them safely. There were girders placed on the northbound side on the 19th, and then on the southbound side, they were installed on the 20th. And so there's a total of 4 girders that were placed on each side of 101. So very big undertaking, and the contractor was able to get it done on time. And now the next step will be starting to pour the bridge deck in March, and then hopefully shifting to the new bridge to allow demolishing the old bridge in the summer. Just to give you an idea on the budget, to show you all the funding sources, Measure M, as I mentioned earlier, contributed $17.2 million to the project. There's a number of state funding sources along with almost $10 million invested from the city of Santa Rosa. And so it's a total project cost of almost $44 million. We're currently within budget and moving along with the contractor and hoping to stay under budget. And here's a splash of the city's project website. We have a very robust public information office approach that's happening right now, facilitated by Ross along with the city and the Caltrans PIOs. To keep all of the residences and businesses in the area notified, and things like we've been having a lot of good social media content going out and reading the comments on some of the stories and the Press Democrat article last week. Sounds like the public's pretty happy with the construction progress, and we're hoping to get this done quickly to provide benefits to the public. And with that, I'll see if there's any questions before we go to the next project.
On 101 North, exiting Hearn Avenue, 2 lanes exit and goes to Santa Rosa Avenue, and then you got to turn left to get to the overpass.
Right.
That's not changing, correct?
Correct. So early on, they looked at potentially realigning Hearn to tie in with the Yolanda there where the current on and off ramps are, and it just wasn't feasible to change it. So everything is kind of staying where it is. Just the bridge will be wider.
So there would just be one, well, and on Santa Rosa Avenue itself, is there any widening of Santa Rosa Avenue, or is it just a 1 lane turning west onto the overpass?
There's 2.
There's 2 lanes that turn left?
Yeah. So I'm just
going north on Santa Rosa Avenue. Okay, yeah. And that's staying the same.
Yeah, so there's still going to be the turn lanes as they are today going on to Hearn Avenue. So there's no additional lanes being installed on Santa Rosa Avenue.
Rick, first.
Three short questions. Do you have any more plans to close 101?
They will hopefully not have too many more closures of 101, but they will have to do closures at some point for demolishing the old bridge. And then once all the piles are driven for that new bridge and the substructure built, then they'll have to do more closures to install girders for the southern half of the new bridge. But we'll have a schedule for that in the coming months.
Secondly, I haven't been there recently. Is Hearn Avenue Bridge closed or is it?
It's currently open to traffic. So it's
Kinda.
there's reduced turning lanes from Santa Rosa Avenue onto Hearn. So that's causing a little bit of backup, and there's reduced lanes at Corby Avenue just because of the construction staging. So it's open, but it's very congested.
Thank you. And then the third question is about the off-ramp from South 101.
Yeah.
What are you doing to move traffic along that faster? Because the problem now is that in busy times, there's so many people getting off there that they back up onto 101 and that right lane is not available for through traffic.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of hard to see on here, but we are adding a dedicated second right turn lane at the intersection of Corby and Hearn that'll allow traffic to get through there a little easier. And that's also adding a second right turn lane at the off ramp in Corby Avenue. And you can kind of see there's some additional width underneath the new bridge on 101 at the off ramp that could allow you to restrict it to a 2-lane off ramp in the future instead of a 1-lane off ramp. So that flexibility is there if Caltrans and the city ever need it to make it into a 2-lane off ramp. But this will give you enough storage capacity to get through there a little faster, especially with the new 4-lane bridge without it queuing back onto Highway 101.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Jerry?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask that same question. I was wondering about that queuing. And in hindsight, there probably wouldn't have been a bad place for a small roundabout in order to keep the traffic moving through there. One other question I had, or actually a point, I noticed that in the project list that was showing us the 300 projects that have been forecast, that we have another crossing that we're thinking of between Hearn and Todd to go across the highway. That should relieve this area quite a bit because with a number of houses that are being built in the area that are affordable and the commercial site being on the other side, that becomes a much more important project because it could offload the cross traffic here, especially if it doesn't have the traffic from the highway as well.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the city does have plans for a future overcrossing of 101 at Bellevue Avenue. It is a little too big close to Hearn Avenue to meet Caltrans standards for putting an interchange there, since Caltrans minimum is at least a mile between interchanges, and I think it's like 0.95
No,
miles.
it would be good not to have an interchange there, just be able to, because people would use that instead to get across the highway without having the conflict of all of the highway traffic as well.
Yeah, so that's something the city is looking at, and I think it may become even more important as the city looks at annexing potentially the Moreland Avenue or South Santa Rosa Avenue neighborhoods of the county.
Tim?
Quick question. Thank you. Thank you for this. Does Caltrans own Hearn Avenue?
So Caltrans owns the bridge between Corby and Santa Rosa Avenue, and they have a maintenance agreement that will be going to the city council soon. Typically in situations like this, Caltrans will own the facility, but then the city is responsible for maintaining everything above the bridge substructure. So in this case, the city will be responsible for maintaining all the striping and everything on top
The
of
roadway and stuff like that. 'Cause I was curious, and I'm glad that we made the lanes more narrow and that Caltrans is kind of treating it like a freeway versus a city street, which is what it is. I just want to say, I really like seeing the buffered bike lanes and the protected bike lanes, I should say, because compare this to the last major interchange, which I think was the Airport Boulevard interchange. That thing's horrible for trying to ride your bike over or walk over. And the county is looking at leasing all this land for workers. And if you try to ride your bike over that interchange, it's terrifying. And the lanes are really nice, like 15 feet wide. You can go really fast. That inexplicable Katati park and ride is up there. So this is a good movement forward, and I'm really excited about this. So Nice work to you guys. That's it.
Great questions and comments, guys. Thank you. All right.
And
We
with
are
that,
on
I'll
to,
turn it over to my colleague Shauna for the 116-121 presentation.
All right.
This is fun. Yes.
116, 121. Uh-oh, time to get up.
Here we go. Good afternoon, directors. No,
Hello.
members of the Citizens Advisory Committee. How are you? So the third project that we're going to present to you today is the 116-121 intersection improvement project. Most of you are familiar with it, but I am going to go over it real quick because we do have some new members and I want to make sure everybody is on the same page. So the project is part of the Measure M Local Streets and Roads program and is located at the intersection of 116 and 121, just south of the city of Sonoma. And the improvements include installing a roundabout at the intersection of those two highways. And the project will also relocate a park and ride lot from the southeast quadrant to the northeast quadrant of the project area. And it will also include a shared path and related facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists so that everybody is accommodated. Just for orientation purposes, the project is located, as I said, just southwest of the city of Sonoma. And this slide gives you a little more graphic understanding of what's being installed, the roundabout, the bike ped improvements, and the park and ride lot. So the park and ride lot is that gray section just underneath the fat green section north of the intersection, and then you can see the roundabout there. But this project, or this graphic is tiny, and I do apologize, but the intent is to get the entire project area into one slide. So this slide briefly describes the schedule. The scoping, environmental design, and right-of-way phases are all complete. The project was awarded to O.C. Jones Construction in August of 2023 and is currently in winter suspension. The contractor has completed 2 phases of the construction, and Caltrans recently approved a value engineering cost proposal that is shortening the length of construction overall and providing cost savings to the project. The proposal paved and then delineated the roundabout configuration of the intersection early so that the construction in the median of the roundabout could continue unimpeded and protected by temporary barriers. The new configuration has already relieved congestion in the intersection. So this slide summarizes the funding plan. As I mentioned, the project is in the construction phase. Construction is fully funded through the State Highway Operation and Protection Program. The former phases were funded through Measure M. This slide shows the landscaping design for the center of the roundabout, a frequently asked question. The landscaping will be completely dry with no vegetation. This is at the request of the county, since the Public Works Department will be responsible for the maintenance of it. The design is a dry creek bed with decorative boulders and rocks, and the intent is to make it aesthetically pleasing but not an attractive nuisance. These, and I apologize, I did try to embed the video. They took a drone video of the operation of the roundabout after they got that, they got the configuration installed, but it just bogged down the whole presentation. So I apologize, I couldn't make that work. But you can see it on the left-hand side there. That is what it looked like after they put up the K-rail and striped it for being able to drive as though you were in the roundabout. And then the second picture, the one on the right, and I apologize, it is very dark because it was a very gray day on the 31st of January, but I did drive out there and took some photos, and those are the installed boulders in the center. And if you look really carefully, you can sort of see that round curb that will be underneath that. So they will have there will be a truck apron that surrounds all of that so that the trucks can navigate the circle. So this final photo is a simulation of the final product once the project is completed. I'm partial to that previous photo because it shows it in real life rather than, in in virtual life. But that completes my presentation and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Where's the boulders? And by the way, do you know where the boulders came from?
Yes.
All right, Rick.
I was over there recently and it looks really good to me. One thing I think is a good idea is there seem to be separate connectors for northbound to eastbound traffic. They don't actually enter the roundabout. And then the same thing for westbound to northbound traffic.
In the final configuration, that's accurate. Currently, they are sharing the roundabout with everyone though.
That seems like a really good idea.
Tim?
Thank you. Our office, one of our visitor centers is south of there and we'd had to wait a very long time. And our storage facility, we couldn't get to it oftentimes because the traffic was so long. I have, for some reason, been put on a committee for artwork for somewhere around this roundabout. And I know I'm a marked man. Where would that go?
So the former supervisor, Gorin, is still very interested in aesthetic treatments to the roundabout. That would be a maintenance agreement. It would require a maintenance agreement with Caltrans, and it would require that the county maintain whatever is installed there. There's also a whole process for reviewing artwork and having,
Yes, there's been so many meetings.
there's a lot that would be involved, an encroachment permit to install. What we did do was install a utility sleeve between essentially where the park and ride lot is located out to the roundabout. Should in the future, the county decide to landscape that with anything so lighting or electric or water, whatever, it's just a sleeve. It's just a PVC sleeve, but it's out there. So if in the future the county wants to do something like that, that's a possibility without digging everything up.
Okay, thank you.
Tom?
This is a large diameter roundabout.
It is.
So less radius of curvature, higher speeds. And there on some of those lanes are sharrows for the cyclists, which I question why it is designed that way, keeping in mind guidelines in some of our active transportation plans from the Federal Highway Administration say no class 3 above 25 miles an hour. And I would imagine some vehicles can slip through this in excess of that. So why are there sharrows and not green paint next to the zebra lines for the pedestrians and have the cyclists have to go on a path next to the sidewalk and cut across the legs of this adjacent to the pedestrians? It seems like it would be safer.
It was designed to standard. Caltrans maintenance indicated they would not maintain the green paint. They would install the green paint for bike lanes.
But still.
Okay, over here we had.
And I will say that the intent during the design was for comfortable cyclists to navigate the intersection without stopping, and cyclists that were less comfortable to use the ladders, to use the pedestrian.
Will it be signed accordingly for approaching cyclists?
That
Make a
is
choice?
certainly something that I am expecting, but I can verify that to be sure.
Very diplomatic answer. Carol, I do see you up there, but we're going to go over here because we've got 3 questions over here. Mosa?
In fact, I drove yesterday through the roundabout, and in the past, I drove many times through that intersection. And I'm very pleased, with the smoothness of, driving and through the roundabout, and the money is being spent on that project. It is worth it,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Harris?
I forgot
think.
what I was gonna say. Move on.
Steve. Or Steve, whoever's ready.
Are there any signals so that pedestrians can get across?
I
Flashing beacons along the crosswalks.
Oh, I remember my question. Is there any lighting Not stoplights, but just
Yes.
general lighting.
Yes, there is
Okay.
lighting for both the intersection and for the park and ride lot.
And am I correct in my memory that once you get out of the bike lanes in this general thing, there's not really a lot?
That is
in
correct.
terms- So the people who are not comfortable cycling are not going to be there at all.
Yes.
All right. Carol?
Yeah,
Oh, you muted again.
No, we can hear you, I think.
No, she's muted.
Oh, can't see it. Do sign language.
Try again.
all right, I think I got it. So I was there Saturday. It was a very heavy traffic day, and guys, I was just flabbergasted. I normally would have had to wait about 10 minutes to get through, and it was just instant. I drove up and went around. It was and in the state that it's in, it's so transformative now, and to be incomplete like that, I was just really amazed. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything that was half built that totally transformed the flow of traffic. I am concerned about the pedestrian and bike lanes, and the cost of green paint seems irrelevant to safety, but that's just me. I don't know how much green paint costs. But yeah, it's an amazingly successful project, and I just want to. I've just never seen anything like it.
Thank you.
Cool. Mark, first.
A comment about the boulders. The landscape
Is it part of the art
architect.
project?
It's part of, Shauna, just let me have this meeting. The boulders were placed by the landscape architect in a certain orientation, and there's a strip through the middle, like a little windy, like maybe 5-6 feet wide. That's probably where the art is probably intended to go. I'm thinking in the middle.
It's currently intended to look like a dry creek bed. So it will have fixed other smaller pieces that will make it look like a dry creek bed. If in the future, the county wants to install some sort of an art piece or other landscaping, that is up to them, and that will require a whole new design inside the roundabout.
Distracting drivers.
All right, just as a comment, we are now infringing officially on Brenton's time, so keep your questions short if you could. Who had one over here? Rick?
Okay, I'm still recovering, Shauna, from your statement about the green paint.
Same.
That seems like a small expense and is kind of stingy of Caltrans not to pay for it, but isn't it possible that?
It's a statewide issue, and it is something that apparently fades over time, and the maintenance department as a standard won't maintain the green paint because it's too expensive to have to maintain to the safety standards. So they just don't do it.
Oh, isn't it possible somebody else could do it, like Sonoma County or?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I should point out there is a small amount of green paint included as part of this project on the westbound and northbound approaches that, as Shauna mentioned, Caltrans will maintain, so they're making the county maintain it. So as part of the main agreement the county has with Caltrans for this project, Caltrans is making the county maintain the flashing beacon over the crosswalk, all the striping, all the sidewalks, because Caltrans doesn't like to maintain much other than just the vehicle lanes. That is an issue, as Shauna mentioned, statewide that we're dealing with Caltrans not wanting to maintain active transportation facilities. But it is a cost we also face on the local side where cities cannot afford to maintain all this green paint because you have to reapply it every few years. So it's definitely a big cost.
All right, and quit attacking Shauna, for God's sakes, all of you.
She didn't design it.
Tom.
Have those skills.
On that note, Shauna, I'm very pro roundabouts, but I see this as a design flaw that's an invitation to a disaster, that drivers going through essentially a higher speed roundabout, looking at other cars, looking out for pedestrians, and now they have to look out for cyclists in two different locations. And I'd like to point out, as far as paint goes, there is technology out there to stain a batch of asphalt while it's in the hopper before it goes down, and then it stays that color forever, as long as it's there. The technology, the engineering is out there. That's all.
The sentiment is appreciated and I do understand. But Eris is right. The surveys that were done prior, there's not a lot of cyclists that are out there using that location. If that's any consolation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brett, you're up. We cheated you out of some valuable minutes.
Let's see. Hello, everyone. Just take a
Hello
few
there.
minutes to get set up here. I just sent a request. Okay. Okay, looking good. All right. Hello, everyone. I am Brenton Hare, and I'm going to share the Measure M and Go Sonoma financials for the month ending January 31st, 2025. In your packet, you should have received the Measure M balance sheets and cash flow reports, as well as the Go Sonoma balance sheet and cash flow reports, and you'll be receiving both of those going forward. All right, revenues for Measure M were $5,625,406 in January, and year-to-date revenues are now $14,276,228. I'm sorry. And expenses for the month were $9,828,834. And year-to-date expenses are now $14,624,552. And Measure M is sitting on a cash balance of $76,261,709. All right, revenues for the month were very high, higher than usual, and that's because we received that delayed tax payment that we mentioned in the last meeting. I will do the breakdown on which was which on the next slide. And we also received $728,812 in interest on the pooled cash. All right, so in January, the taxes received were $2,316,273. That was the January portion for the month of November, and that's down 1.67% from the prior year. And year-to-date earned is actually looking a little bit better, $12,779,105. That's down just under 1% for the year, so getting a little better. And year-to-date received is in line with what we received this month. $18,337,961, again, down 1.67% from the prior year.
So can I ask a question? When you say earned, like, what do you mean by that?
So the earned is for money that was earned in fiscal year 23-24. So the payments that we receive in July and August were for the months of May and June of 23-24. So those weren't earned in this fiscal year, even though we received them. So the actual money that we've earned in this year, right, we've received it in January. That was for the month of November. So
thank you.
yes. So the year-to-date received is what we've actually gotten this year, but the earned is the money that was applicable to this fiscal year.
So we won't see any change to the year to date from this point forward. Is that correct? Because we're into Go Sonoma at this point?
No, the Measure M dollars will keep going until I believe May or June. Yeah. Okay, January expenses of $9,828,834 were higher than recent months because we paid off the 2015 series bonds. So Measure M has now paid off all of its bonds. And that was a $6,060,000 principal payment and $151,500 in interest. So that is good news. And all of the arbitrage paperwork and everything has been filed with the Treasury, and that's complete. And then there was also $3,526,714 in ordinary contributions to other governments. These are the local street and road type payments. And then $41,836 in staff time. And this slide is for Go Sonoma. We received $12,125 in revenue, which was entirely interest on pooled cash. And year-to-date revenues are now $14,583. We won't see these numbers go up much more than this until the very end of the year. And then expenses for the month were $22,297, and that was almost entirely staff time. And we're sitting on a cash balance now of $1,646,047, which is part of the loan from Measure M.
Could I ask a question about this slide? Go Sonoma's tax collection doesn't begin until April.
Correct.
So where's this money coming from? And even the money that you're getting interest on, where did that come from?
That was a loan from Measure M.
Okay.
Okay. And that's the end of my presentation, unless there's any questions.
Way to shave some time off it. Good job.
Thank you.
Chris, you're up.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Share my screen on the run here. Afternoon, everyone. So scaling way back and talking about those 300 projects on the CTP project list. Let me go ahead and get this presentation going.
You have 10 minutes to talk about the 300 projects?
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, would you like me to proceed and try and keep within the 10 minutes or
I'm fine.
bump until?
I mean, I don't have any place to go, so. How much time do you need, Chris?
I can try and do 10 minutes. So I'll do my best
All right.
to keep it.
We'll take up a collection, see if you can hit that.
All right.
one.
Oh,
All right.
man. So much pressure. Okay, so let me get this going. All right, so I'll be providing a report on our comprehensive transportation plan. So one of the big pieces of our CTP is to think about projects long-term. So the planning horizon for the CTP is 2050. So this is looking out way in the future. And it's also financially unconstrained. So even though a portion of those projects do have some identified funding, a lot of them don't have anything attached at this point. So the name of our CTP is Sonoma Moves 2050. And so we track projects in the CTP for a number of reasons. One is to think big, right? So think about what needs may be in the future out at 2050 and identified needs and priorities. Another piece of the CTP is evaluating where congestion and safety issues and travel flows will be in the future and figuring out how to best meet those needs and address the issues that we'll be seeing in the future. So we have a number of tools that we'll do to do that. So that's coming up next as part of our CTP work. Another big piece of the CTP project list is feeding into the regional transportation plan. So taking those big regional scale projects, teeing them up for that regional plan so they can be eligible for those regional and other funding dollars. Also, to meet our own funding requirements, we're required to have an updated policy and planning document to help us guide our programming and funding process. And then we also use the CTP to help identify potential projects for our own funding programs like Measure M and Go Sonoma. So digging into those 300 plus projects, I would just mention that projects in the CTP are generally over $1 million, so they're bigger projects. We do have smaller buckets that include and compile those smaller projects, but considering those big $1 million plus projects, 15 have been carried over since the last CTP or been completed, and then 212 have been carried over. And so last fall, we worked with local jurisdictions to update project costs, project descriptions, and the information for those 200 plus projects. So we issued a call for projects last winter that closed, I believe, on December 13th. We received over 100 new project submissions from the jurisdictions for CTP projects. So pretty big influx of new ideas and new projects. So that brings us up for the total project list of 315 projects. So I apologize for the 14-page tiny font list in your agenda packet. So hopefully you can zoom in and see some of those. Once we've had a chance to check those, check the draft, we'll get an online version that you can sort and filter as well. So like we do for the old CTP project list. So the estimated project cost or need is just over $17 billion. So keep in mind that is going out to 2050, and about $5 billion of that is currently identified. So the 5 largest projects, so about $4.5 to $5 billion of that is State Route 37, both the long-term and the interim project. Smart ongoing operations is about $2.5 billion. We all know that the road system in Sonoma County is one of the largest in the state, so the highest number of lane miles. So maintaining that system is has a high price tag, so over $1 billion for that going out to 2050 for the county. And then SMART has also included their East-West Rail Capital Enhancement Project, which is just over $1 billion. And as that project is developed, the Sonoma County portion will be broken out. So this is the whole project right now.
I have a question, Chris, if you may. The State Route 37 sea level project, is the cost the county portion or is it the whole cost of the project?
I believe that's the whole cost. I'm going to look back at David to see if that's confirmed.
So I believe the $4 billion was my ballpark estimate of just the Sonoma County portion between the Petaluma River Bridge and the Sonoma Creek Bridge. The overall cost estimate for 37 between 101 and I-80 is in the neighborhood of $11 billion as of 2022. So this is just the Sonoma County chunk of it.
Thank you.
But why is it the county's responsibility? It's a state highway.
It's not the county's responsibility. It's just what we decided to list in the project list. So there are a number of other projects from Caltrans, I believe, also in the project list. We just listed this one as it is included in MTC's Plan Bay area.
Yeah, and part of the project list is looking at, what will happen in the future and how those improvements will in fact impact travel patterns. So it's important that we include it for that reason as well. So thanks for the save on that, David. All right, so moving on to bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, just included a few high-level statistics here. So about 8% of all trips in Sonoma County are bicycle or walking trips. Just over 3% of commute trips are walking and biking. 60% of trips in Sonoma County are 5 miles or shorter, and 30% are less than 2 miles. So a lot of opportunities for shifting to walking and biking there. We currently have just over 400 built miles of bike and ped infrastructure. And in the current updated CTP, we have close to 1,100 planned miles of new facilities.
So when you say 400 miles built, how much of that is just stripes as in class 2 and how much is actually separated?
So we do have that split out in our ATP. So I don't know that off the top of my head,
Okay.
but we can
That
look
would
at
be
that.
helpful to have those in there because it 402 built miles. I mean, because they're not the same.
Yeah,
Right?
for
Class
sure.
2 and a class 1 are different experiences and it's helpful to have them always be separated out.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great place for some parentheses having that after that. Thank you.
So Chris, a follow-up question on the same, comment, the 400, miles, is it bike lanes or is it combined pedestrian and bike lane?
It would be both. So there are multi-use pathways, but there are bike routes and those types of facilities included as well. Yeah. So here's a closer look at some of the bigger bike ped projects. There are 103 projects in total in the listed out in the CTP. And do keep in mind that we do have that $1 million kind of floor for larger projects generally. So each jurisdiction has an implementation of their active transportation plan as kind of a bucket project in there. So when you consider that, let me move this. I believe it's about 1.2 billion to construct all of those projects. almost $500 million to complete those small projects that are in the ATPs. So the largest 5 projects are active transportation improvements around smart stations. That's a larger programmatic type project. Sonoma County Regional Parks has planning on constructing or at some point would like to implement the California Coast Trail going from Mendocino to Marin County. So there are portions of that completed around Bodega. The completion of the Smart Pathway is one of the top 5, Highway 101 crossing at Copeland Creek in Rohnert Park and near the Santa Rosa Junior College in Santa Rosa, round out that list for bike ped projects. So moving on to road and highway projects, as I mentioned before, we have a very large road system in Sonoma County, around 2,600 lane miles of public roadway countywide, so a lot of roads to maintain. Over $2 billion of the road estimates on here are focused on local road maintenance and rehab. So making sure we're maintaining what we have out there. We have over 11 million daily VMT per day in 2023. So a lot of people moving around in vehicles. So those roads, those 2,600 miles are being used a lot. But about 90% of our total travel stays in the county. So not a lot of leaving or going. And here are the top 5 projects. I already mentioned the State Route 37, but you can see maintenance number 2 on the road categories. And then other projects down here below. So I'm just looking at the time and.
Quick question. It seems like a couple of years ago when we looked at this, it was far more than 11% of trips going out of the county. Do you remember kind of this maybe 8 to 10 years ago that we did this report? And it seemed, I was really surprised back then at, I want to say it was 30%. So are we, because we're building affordable housing, what do you attribute that to? I don't know if you got a study, but you got an opinion because you've been looking at this for years.
Well, and we do have a study as well. So we conducted a travel behavior study where we looked at mobile source data. So basic like onboard GPS units, mobile devices. So looked at movements. So our last update was using 2021 data. 2021 data. So there's definitely been a shift to more internal travel and less travel out of the county. And the number 1 movement between Sonoma County is to Marin County, back and forth.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
And pandemic probably plays a role in that as well. And work from home. Thank you.
A quick question, in the earlier presentation about Highway 12 and Fulton Road, project, is it on the list of projects there or not?
It should be, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is?
It's in detailed list.
Yeah.
Is, okay, I did not look into.
There are 300 and the font's very small, but.
God's sakes, Mosa, read the material.
Yeah.
Still small, but it's.
Yeah. Okay, so here is a summary of the different cost breakdowns by different subsections of the road and highway projects. So you can see about $5 billion on highways. So a big chunk of that is Highway 37. Intersection improvements, ITS and new technology is a smaller amount. A multimodal streetscape. So that does include bicycle and pedestrian improvements and safety as well. So it's not just road rehab. And then you can see roadway improvements there, including maintenance, which about 2.1 of that is maintenance only. So looking at key transit projects, we'll get to the summary in just a minute, but a big part of that is maintaining existing operations. But all the transit operators have proposed different service increases for all of their systems, all their services. The list also includes smart rail service to Cloverdale, including new vehicles and maintenance, additional smart stations, smart pathway construction, rapid bus projects in Santa Rosa and Petaluma, passenger information and technology improvements. It's important that the transit providers also update and maintain their maintenance facilities and bus stops and yards as well. So that's included. And then implementation of our mascots and transit integration studies is included as a project in the CTP. So here's a look at the overall costs. You can see Nuke Technologies, about 58 million there. Transit capital projects, buying new equipment and buses and vehicles, almost 3 billion. This is out to 2050. And then transit improvements and operations, around 4 billion. And a big piece of that is operations. So another aspect of the CTP and the project list is looking at mode shift programs, about 40 million. So there's a list of a lot of different types of travel demand management programs and other mode shift programs here, including things like Vision Zero and safety implementation, transit discounts and fare reductions, emergency ride home programs, and things like that. So more information on the slide here. And here's the table, which is also in the staff report, kind of breaking down the breakdown between the existing projects that have carried over and the new projects. I would also mention there's the number of projects on there as well, so not just the costs. So this is what we're doing with local public works and transit providers on reviewing the draft project list. I would mention again, the projects with a project cost of greater than $1 million or under $1 million are included in kind of those bucket categories. So those won't specifically be showing up in the list unless the local jurisdiction or transit provider really wants to daylight or highlight one of their projects. So there are a few in there that'll be under $1 million. This is the type of information we're checking on: title, description, costs, things like that. And we'll be collecting updates to the list through April 30th. So here's the schedule. We updated the existing project information last fall with project sponsors. We issued the call for projects last winter. So that's where we got those 103 new projects. We're presenting the draft right now. And so once we make it through review of the draft, we'll start our CTP project assessment, where we look at future conditions and how the projects will impact future travel and safety and VMT and emissions. This summer, David and his team will be working on the SCTA funding program cycle 2 call for projects that'll largely be pulling from the CTP project list. We'll be building off of that to look at the next 5 to 10 years and develop a short-term implementation plan for the CTP. So 25 years is a long time, so we want to look at what we can get done in the short term as well. And then we'll be working towards the final CTP project list and final CTP by December of this year. So that's it. Happy to.
Yeah.
How are projects being prioritized in this plan? Or are they?
So they're not in the CTP, so we're including them in a large visionary list and evaluating them all together as part of the funding program. That's where, you know, they're prioritized and evaluated individually in that short term.
This document.
This is a umbrella vision list.
Vision Quest. Jerry.
But the small print was good and skipped over it. And then I went back and I spent several hours reading every line. To be honest, it's actually a very interesting list. And I was curious also about, or want to see how we do prioritization on it, how we look at the funding on it, what are the most important things to work on, and some of the things that are there we can do because the funding is possible, and some of them is, gee, we really like to do those things. One of the things I saw in here, one of the specifics I saw, and this was a curious one, I saw an update on the real-time vehicle system for Sonoma County Transportation. And it left me with the question of, do we use the same real-time system for all of the different transit authorities throughout the Bay Area? And if not, I'm bringing it up in my meeting tomorrow at the MTC.
Yeah, so, you know, I definitely think the hope is that we're moving in that direction, but we're not quite there yet. So, yeah.
But, and the list, will we have a meeting at some point where we'll go through the list in a little bit more detail? It's an impressive list. And even if we looked at the ones which would be the next 5 years, and that we think would be the next 5 years, I think it's worthwhile having a discussion on those.
So I would propose when we come back in the fall, when we're working on that that short-term implementation plan, that'd be a good time to kind of dig into some more detail. We'll be able to be looking at maybe 50 or less projects instead of 300 plus. So that may be a good time to start looking at that. This spring, we'll also be doing the performance assessment. So we'll have some metrics attached with the entire list where we see things heading in the future. So we'll have that information and kind of that short-term look as well. So that might be a good time to wade back
And
in.
I wasn't kidding. This was actually my question list.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
let's not go through all of them. Rick?
No, we won't.
Well, so at this point, the main question, since you're not interested in priorities at this point, is there stuff on the list we think shouldn't be there and vice versa?
So these are locally submitted priorities. So each of the project sponsors has gone through a process of deciding whether or not it's something they would like to pursue. So we believe there is some value in having an overall large bucket list of potential projects. So, I think when we start talking about funding and that short-term prioritization, I think that's where, there's more room to start making those types of, looking at things in that direction. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's what I would recommend at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Rick, I had the same question.
All right. Great. Thank you, Chris.
Great.
Good job. You failed miserably, by the way. Miserably.
10 minutes over. I apologize for that.
Only Jerry did his homework for God's sake. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we are on to announcements. Okay.
The Bike Coalition has moved into a beautiful new office and downtown, like 2 blocks away from here, and you are all cordially invited to our ribbon cutting / grand opening on March 6th at 4:30, 499 Humboldt Street.
Humboldt Street. All right, thank you.
I have one.
Yeah.
And I attended this week the opening of the Transit Center's new signage where we are the prototype, not the pilot, because the pilot follows the prototype. And it's pretty interesting. If you haven't seen it all, get a chance to go there and then do the walk to the smart station as well. They're looking for comments from everybody before we start doing the pilots. So and when the pilots come out, that'll be later this year, and it'll be in 9 areas throughout the Bay Area. Right now, there's only the 2, which is Santa Rosa and El Cerrito and Del Norte. But it's pretty interesting, the changes that are occurring, and that's why I asked this question about real time and how the signs look. There's a lot of good changes. It's subtle changes, but they're good.
I make a motion that Jerry does all of our comments for us on that. Yeah, Tim.
I have one quick final thing. In the Springs, there's a pop-up plaza park that's been developed and the citizens are getting involved with. The Fairmont donated a bunch of really nice chairs. They changed the colors of the chairs. They donated them. It looks really nice. There's some benches. So even though it's not transportation itself, it's right along Highway 12, and it's really slowing down traffic and providing a place for that neighborhood that really needs a gathering spot. So next time you're down there, let me know. I'll buy you a taco across the street and we'll sit down in some nice chairs. There you go.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other announcements, we're adjourned.
Wait. Oh, okay. I did have an announcement, but that's okay. No problem.
That?
Carol had an announcement.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your picture up there.
Sorry, it's not that relevant. Maybe an FYI, a group I'm with called Genesis is having a webinar Thursday about efforts to get the $2 billion from the state budget allocated to transportation. And so the main thrust of this is going to be getting people to call their state senators. So just to let you know, and if you want to call your state senators, that would be cool. I think we've got 2 of them. So thank you so much. Thank you for including me.
Thank you, Carol. Sorry I missed you.